Hello, hello, lovelies, and welcome to Fuck I Don't Know. And who am I? I don't know. I'm pretty sure my name is like Sim. Well, my name is actually Suk Simran Singh Killa.
Say that again.
Yeah, it's hard. Suk Simran Singh Killa.
Suk Simran Killa.
Yeah, all close. That's
Something like
close.
that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna make you say it, but let's just go with
Mine's
Sim.
simple. It's Kevin.
Kevin. It's longer than Kevin. It has to be longer than Kevin.
Kevin Joseph John Westridge.
Ooh, look who has a long name.
Kevin's easy.
Kevin Joseph John Westridge. That sounds like something serious. You have tuned into Kevin Joseph John Westridge. It's like, come on, why do you have three first names?
I have one first name and two middle names. One is my middle name given to me by my mother and father at the time of birth, and then my confirmation name when I was Catholic, when I was a little kid.
So is that why you're Brother Joseph?
Is that why I am?
I mean, it was the name Brother Joseph from
Yeah.
the fact that you have Joseph in there.
Yeah, that's part of it. The other was also a confirmation was given to me that was to be used as well. So yeah, from some of my friends and elders. So
It wasn't the intuition that you had?
nope, I didn't have anything to do with it.
Okay.
On that case or that event. No.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. So what we're talking about today is not first names. I'm sorry. We're actually talking about intuition. Okay.
Intuition. What is it?
It's
I think you said earlier it was Intuit.
Yeah, when I'm into it, that's when it is kind of like that though. When I'm into it, I have like an intuition about it.
Okay.
But like,
So what does intuition mean?
it means to know from a place other than your head.
Yeah, it's a pretty good simple description.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But where?
Intuition usually comes from the gut or the heart. You usually feel it. It's a sensation. It's a knowing. It's an inner knowing. Like you said, from here, not here. The brain is really good at categorizing, putting things together, past experiences and such. But intuition is that connection, I believe, to the heart, which is the connection to the soul. So when you feel it, it's usually often in the heart or in the belly, the intuition. Yeah.
And I know we've started to discover that the gut and the heart have their own kind of neuronal networks, and they have sense and memory and everything. But is the intuition is like instinct?
Yeah, you know it when you know it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of just a built-in thing.
Yeah, it's some people call it a bullshit meter.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I used to have it since I was a kid.
Does it really resonate? Does it really feel like truth? You know what truth is when you see it, when you feel it. Most of us do. A lot of times we ignore it, but
So why is that? Why do we ignore it?
we ignore it because we don't listen to the heart. We listen to past experiences. Our brain tries to justify certain things. Like, for instance, when you're in a relationship or you're doing something, you're building a relationship with someone. Yeah. And you get those red flags. Man, oh, here it is. I can feel it. Why am I pursuing this relationship? Another red flag comes up. It's your intuition. We don't listen to it, and then we end up repeating the same thing over and over again. So the intuition is really important, and fostering and developing new relationships in all kinds.
So how do you foster intuition?
How do you foster it? You get out of your head and get out of the way.
Well, that's easy.
Oh, yeah.
That's just
easier said than done. No.
I'll just get out of my own way, and then somebody else will take control of my life, and I will be...
So what?
When the head's out of the way,
yeah.
How do you know the head's out of the way?
Because, again, you're feeling it here. You're feeling it in your heart. You're feeling this gut reaction.
Well, yeah, so I've had that since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And it felt like, but when you're a child, I think you're just so in tune with it. It's just your state of being.
Yeah. Yeah, you're just constantly going from that state of being in full awareness.
Yeah, and then your actions are guided by it, and it's just such an autonomic reaction.
Sure.
Then is it society that takes it away? Is it our surroundings? Is it the fact that we're told to be so level-headed?
Yeah, boy, that's a hard one.
I feel like it's cool.
I would say that it's conditioned out of us.
Yeah.
More so that we're taught that you do something this way. This is the way we learned it. You don't stick your finger in a fire, you're going to get burned. I mean, that's obvious.
Yep.
But when it comes to our intuition, we're usually listening and watching and observing those who are important around us,
who themselves might be out of touch with their intuition.
Absolutely. Yeah. But a great way to get in touch with the intuition is very simply, again, a lot of it has to do with mindfulness, quiet. Just allow yourself to be quiet, a few minutes a day.
But there's a luxury that we have not, that's just completely disappeared in this world. Just silence. Like, we don't even take a shit in silence now.
Really, you don't?
I mean, I'm not screaming while I'm taking.
Sometimes do you have music going or something?
Well, sometimes you have Mexican food and then you're like screaming while you're. But I mean, silence isn't like stillness, because you're on your phone and there's something to do, and then
No, you mean you're on your phone when you're going to the toilet?
You're not? Come on. Let's take a poll. If you're on your phone while you're in the toilet, leave a comment below or some kind of thumbs up or something. I guarantee you 100% of people, other than Kevin,
there are some things you just don't do on the toilet.
You don't go on your phone on the toilet?
It's just intuition, as far as I know.
He's so appealing about it. No, as far as I know, most people nowadays sit on the toilet on their phone until their legs go numb. And then get up with wobbly legs.
Really?
And then poop runs down their legs and stuff. I don't know. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I feel like the art of stillness. Getting back on point, the art of stillness.
We're talking about intuition.
Has been lost completely.
No, it hasn't been lost. Nothing's ever lost permanently. It's just put on hold, it's pushed down, it's not in our conscious awareness, so it's never really gone.
Not gone, but I feel like the world just wants our attention so much that putting the attention on yourself.
Well, you look at marketing. You look at Marketing 101. What is marketing about? I want your attention. I want to sell you something, and the way I sell you something is I either transfer the enthusiasm about my product or I continually bombard you with something.
Yeah, and keep you focused on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And in society today, so many people are so externally bound from that perspective of, do I look beautiful? I mean, look at the cosmetic industry, all these different industries that are trillion-dollar industries. It's all based upon something external. So again, we're not listening to that internal voice. We're listening to what we're being told.
Well, even that, we're barely listening. It's almost like we're not even listening at all anymore.
Yeah.
And that idea of like listening to the gut and listening to the heart, it's become such a cliche thing that people look at it as a cliche thing, when it's such a fundamental, actionable thing. Where like you said, if you are introspective and you give time to stay still and listen to what's actually been going on, oftentimes the answers we're looking for are they're already there.
That they say that's on the tip of your nose. Yeah, that's what they say.
Exactly. It's literally on the tip of your nose.
It is. But we've been so deprogrammed.
Yep.
Away from that, from society.
And so, what are some practices that have worked for you to?
Oh, great.
Get back in there.
To get back to mindfulness is just. I mean, you don't even have to meditate. Just take 5 minutes out of your day to make a practice, just to sit, follow and observe your breath,
and just think.
No, it's not about thinking. Literally following your breath. So in other words, you just sit there for 5 minutes. You can have your eyes just gently open and you might even want to stare at something, but just follow the breath. Don't make it happen. Don't increase it or decrease it. Just follow it. Thoughts are going to come in. It's just, we've been so bombarded by thoughts and so many things from the external world. I found that over the years, and a lot of the people that I've worked with as well, it normally takes a few weeks, and it's usually about 30 days when we really can sort of drop into that place very quickly. Another thing to do is when you do that 5 minutes, just follow your breath, is to sit in a place in your home that feels really good to you. Okay? If there's a particular chair or desk or comfortable chair, preferably not one that you're going to go to sleep in 2 minutes.
Yeah. Can't feel that good.
You can, but find that place. I call it the power place. We all feel it in our house, and there's a particular area or place we love to spend our time, right?
Yeah. Just
go
there and sit and hang out.
Sit there and do that every day with some sort of an intention, whether you're going to do it every morning or every afternoon. And, don't beat yourself up if you don't do it. But just go and sit, and you'll really be surprised how quickly your body is and your mind and your being is automatically programmed to go right into that space. Then all of a sudden you just start following your breath without even thinking about it. And then what begins to happen is the mind becomes quiet. Okay? Again, thoughts will come in, just acknowledge them. Yeah, okay. Just bring your awareness back to your breath. Thought comes in, okay. Just come back to your breath. And eventually, you won't even have to use that technique. You'll just follow your breath.
Amazing.
Okay?
Yeah. For me, like, I remember, like, what I was going to say earlier was I was a kid. I had it. And then I got too deep into just thinking and acting from a place of logic and reason.
Sure.
And completely fell out of it. And then once I did start to, like, meditate and just have the classic space in my day to just sit and reflect on what just happened, maybe what's going to happen before. And I was sitting down to reflect. I wasn't even thinking about the intuition part.
Sure.
It then kind of tuned me back into the intuition side of things, because I would be thinking and, you know, my thoughts would say one thing, but then I would get a feeling about it, and the feeling was almost always right.
Yeah.
You know, and the gut and then I started tuning into the fact that, like, the gut reaction to things almost always was the right thing. And I would try, even in times when, you know, I would have a feeling that I should be doing something a certain way, and then I would kind of just ignore it and do it another way. Later on, you look back and you're like, I should have just done it the first way. I knew it. I had a feeling about that.
So you're human.
Yeah. I am human.
You know, so often when we want to change a pattern of behavior or a belief system or a perception, we think it should be instantaneous. Or we want it done very quickly. Again, where does that come from? Marketing 101.
Yeah, I
want it now. Yeah, McDonald's. I want it now. Give me my whatever. And, you know, we just got into that mode of operation. So, yeah, particularly as children, you know, we know how to be in the moment as well.
It's funny that children know how to do it. And once you get old enough, you tend to tune back into it.
Yeah.
And just in the middle part, you're just lost in the middle of nothing, basically. Yeah, or at least that's all life's built to do.
Part of the journey, I think. Yeah. You know, how many times, or one of the things I think of is in terms of how we learn things, is we have to go out to come back to see it in another way.
Yeah.
You know, because if we're continually doing it, great. But most of us don't. You know, we may start a practice even as an adult. We may start a practice. I've done this many times. I go into yoga and meditation, and I'm really focused, and I do it regularly. And then there are periods of time in my life, just sitting, I can sit and instantaneously drop into that space for 5 minutes and just decompress, meditate, check in, and then come right back. So.
Yeah, and then it just becomes your natural state.
Yeah, for the most part. And that's when you're really, really fortunate that life itself becomes meditation.
Yeah, and then it becomes easier almost.
Sure, then you're more connected to the intuition.
Yeah, and you're like, which way should I go? That way. There's no ambiguity to it.
Yeah.
You know, there's no uncertainty, and that's one of the biggest things I see people stuck in is indecision. Because you know, when you're trying to calculate things too much, there's too much data, or there's too many variables, and you just start to get confused.
That's huge in the world today with the amount of information we receive. It puts anybody that's sane on overload.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Yeah, and the crazy ones they're crazy. You know, so to them.
You know, more information doesn't mean wisdom, doesn't mean learned. You know, the more information we have,
And would you say intuition is one of the pillars of wisdom? Right, because wisdom has this kind of...
Yeah, I think that my opinion is that wisdom... Well, I'll share a phrase that are sort of a mantra, or I don't know what you want to call it, that I basically believe that when the head and the heart gather as one, understanding the experience is true wisdom. When the head and the heart, the head and the heart gather as one, understanding the experience. See, because oftentimes when the heart feels in this intuition is brought forward, and you feel it so deep and viscerally, the brain oftentimes can't figure out what's going on.
Right.
And it struggles to pull from its data banks, like what's happening here, what's making sense, or it fills it in with negative data.
Right.
Negative experiences because it's lacking. It can't grasp it. Particularly when you're on this spiritual journey, and the spiritual journey called life, period. We have these events that happen that are really profound, and we've all had them. And there's always this inner knowing, from that intuitive part of us, that connection to our heart. And the brain's just like, whoa, I'm still on the off-ramp. Wait a minute here. And can't grasp it. Yeah. And not only that, oftentimes when you get this kind of beautiful information, the brain needs time to assimilate it, because this is all new information. Yep. And for the brain to change that, I think that's where we have to, again, come from our heart and from that intuitive place, is to help direct the mind that this is a better way of moving through life or understanding what's going on.
But it's a little scary because it's the unknown.
It's always scary in the unknown. Whenever we do anything, oftentimes we don't take that step because we're afraid of the unknown.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Sure.
And especially when you feel it. Your mind's telling you, I don't know which way to go, and then you feel it, but you're like, how can I know it?
Yeah, that's the mind kicking in, the old beliefs, the patterns, the negative aspects that we've experienced in life.
Yeah.
Because it's like, some people call it, there's the ego that's involved, that it works off of past experiences. Yep. So what it wants to do is keep you safe.
Yeah.
Okay. From one perspective, other people think it's just bad. You got to get rid of it. The ego, it's like, no. Wait a minute. We don't want to get rid of it. How do we integrate it?
Yep.
So let's integrate it in a positive way through that intuition, and through that process of including it.
So wait. What do you mean by that? Like integrating it, including it? How?
Yeah. Like when you have this really powerful intuitive experience and the brain is just like grasping for straws and going, no, don't do this, it's da-da-da-da. What you do is you check in. And one of the ways I do it is I ask, is this really for my highest good? And I feel and I listen. And oftentimes when I work with clients, I'll share with them, if you're in that situation, which is what we're talking about, is the thing I ask them to do is, in that moment, what's the most loving thing I can do? What is it? Listen to my head?
Yeah.
Oftentimes not. It's like, listen to your heart. And I can't tell you the number of stories that people have shared with me over a long time where they said, I began to break this pattern.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's quite powerful.
And so what would you say is the best example of listening to your intuition that you felt in your life? What's something where you're like, holy crap, that was...
Listening to my intuition. Let me think for a second. There's a lot of different experiences that I've had. Okay. It was when I came out of my near-death experience. And let me see, it might be a little bit long.
We only have a lot of time, yeah.
Yeah, no, we don't have much time. Yeah. So I'll share when I came out of the corporate world.
Yeah.
And I came out of the corporate world. I had no clue what was going to happen. And I fought and I struggled to try and make sense of all of it. Yeah. Tried to listen to my intuition. Man, it was a mess. But what began to happen was I went to Sedona. And I think I shared this story before. When I left Chicago, Illinois, from the corporate world, I went to Sedona, Arizona for the first time. Yeah. A lot of things happened, but I was supposed to be going to Tucson, which was an hour south. And I heard this voice, this inner voice, this intuitiveness say, get off the airplane in Phoenix. And I'm like, what? Seriously? But I knew at that point I had to listen.
Okay.
Because I really took some nasty falls before that when I didn't.
Yeah.
So I said, okay. So I find myself down in the baggage claim area of the airport. I had no idea where I was going. I said, please guide me. I'll listen to my intuition. I'll listen to those signs. I'll look for those signs. And then all of a sudden, I went up to the car rental counter. I went up to a van service counter. And each time I went up there, I wanted to puke. My intuition was so visceral. I mean, it was kinesthetic. It was just... Yeah. And so I said, okay, I'm listening. That's not it. And then all of a sudden I went to this board with all these hotel little thumbnails, and one just jumped out at me.
Yeah.
And I could have been in my head and said, this is all phooey and this is all hogwash. Get on a frickin' airplane. What are you, nuts? I didn't. I stood there and I thought, okay. Picked up the phone, called that, and a whole series of events happened that literally took me to Sedona permanently. Mm-hmm. So it was listening to that really kind of guided me where I was to go.
And so you touched on a good point there. Like, how come if you don't listen, you almost get punished? Is it you punishing yourself, or is there something cosmic there that, like...
No, I think that's the mind. I believe it's the mind.
Like, literally causing you trouble if you don't listen to the intuition.
Because there's such a dissonance between the action you're taking and what your brain understands, the memory, your mind. It's contradictory to what it knows. So it's having to run on a whole new system. And again, that's where the ego gets tied in, and it's like, whoa, what are you doing? This is crazy. It doesn't make any sense. We haven't experienced this before.
But how come oftentimes when you listen to the mind in that situation, you ignore the intuition, you listen to the mind, and then situations come up which actually end up teaching you a lesson.
Yeah.
And then they try to get you to listen again. And if you don't, they listen again. And it's like it's almost like the intuition is like is a great parent that's trying to teach you something and you don't listen, so you just keep getting the beating.
I believe that intuition is our connection to the divine.
That's what I was going to say.
That's, we always think that in our humanness, even if we do things where we think it's wrong, from the divine aspect, there is no such thing as right and wrong.
Right.
It's either life-giving or it's not. And if it's not life-giving, change it, go in a different direction.
So intuition is that
guidance system.
It's the guidance system. It's the divinity speaking through us. It's that link
source.
that we have.
You call it source, divinity,
whatever you like. Yeah. So it's actually it is that link of knowing what should be, not even should be, but what is.
What is more life-giving? Yeah.
Define that.
What's more life-giving? When you're in a situation and you make a decision, you know that if you make this decision and you walk towards that direction, you know it's going to be painful on some level.
Life-giving to you, others, everyone?
Well, when it comes to the heart's perspective, it is for the highest good of all. Mm-hmm. But in the beginning, what I ask people to look at is, like I said earlier, what can I do in this moment that's most loving for me? Because what I try and do is connect people to themselves. Yeah. Because one of the things I learned in my master's program is we have what's called an inner counselor. It's our inner guidance system. It's the place of wisdom. In Native American traditions, it's called the grandmother's grandfathers. It's a place of wisdom. Okay. So first is I ask people to kind of check in with themselves. Mm-hmm. What in this moment that I can do that's most loving for me? Because what that does is it begins to condition us in a way that it's contained here. Okay? And then eventually I say, what in this moment can I do that's most loving? Because when you ask that, the heart says, for everyone, not just me. Right. And it's like most things that we learn, I have found that as human beings, we can't go from here to here. We fall halfway through, and then the judgment, we go down the rabbit hole and we swirl. Where when we just take those baby steps, and like you said, even it could be a bad experience, we learn from it. Okay, how do I do something different? So
and so it all comes back to love.
Everything is love.
So intuition is just trying to guide us more towards love.
Yeah, and even when we're not in what we perceive as love, it is.
What do you mean?
If you're in
even the bad stuff?
Yeah, even if in a bad situation, yeah. Because what my sense is now, after a lot of the things that have happened to me and the people that I've worked with, love asks us to see it from so many different perspectives. See, in the Western world, we think of love. Okay, what does love mean?
Hugs.
Hugs. Yeah, okay, hugs. I love my mother. I love my father. I love my brothers, my sisters. I love my puppy. Yeah. But there are so many different kinds of love. There's hot love, sweaty love, redemptive love, love for a puppy, love for an intimate partner. They're not the same. Mm-hmm. There's a different expression of energy.
But it's probably tough for somebody to hear that the things we view as bad from our perspective are still love.
Yeah, but if you look at some cultures, what we think is bad is not bad in another culture. Let's take, for instance, death. Mm-hmm. Some cultures, it's for some people, it's just the end of the world. Yeah. There is no existence beyond. You're dead. you're just a pile of lump in the ground and you're done.
Yeah, worst thing that happens is death.
Absolutely.
The Balinese, they celebrate it.
Yeah.
They get happy, like, oh great, somebody's transcended to the next stage.
Absolutely. Next evolutionary stage of whether it's karma or whatever. You know, it's the same way that we view, again, death. I think it's the Tibetans. They put a body, one of the most sacred bodies, they'll put it next to the river for the vultures to eat because they know this is simply an apparatus. It's food for some other animal. I mean, and anybody that thinks that they're going to get out of this alive and insects aren't going to devour their body, they're within us.
Yeah, there's a 100% failure rate when it comes to life. Nobody's made it yet. Let's see if anybody beats it.
Love is the key.
So that actually makes a lot of sense, because if intuition is this kind of internet link we have to whatever source, right? Yeah. Then this thing is just like a computer. Yeah. And that link is actually what is life, is love, is what intuition, whatever you want to call it. And this thing is just a antenna to receive it.
It's more than just an antenna to receive it. It collects, it categorizes, it does a lot of beautiful things. Yep. One of the meditations that I do, and this is a great way to do it too, to really begin to connect into your intuition, is take 10 minutes a day. And there's 4 things. It's very simple. I am not my body. I am not the physical. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. I command my body to do things. Mm-hmm. Okay? I ask it to do things, but I'm not my body, because it's going to leave.
Okay.
Okay? I'm not my mind. I ask my mind to do things, categorize them, past events, I can think of the future and so forth, but I am ultimately not my mind.
Okay, so
body, mind, I'm not. Yeah. My emotions, they are simply energy and motion. Okay? Emotions. Energy and motion. It's not who I am, ultimately.
I love that.
It is what I'm experiencing in that moment, because the body has an intelligence. That's a whole other conversation.
Okay.
And then the 4th is that I am many things, personas. I hold many personas.
Right.
I am all of them and none of them. Okay?
Cool.
I'm all of them and none of them.
Cool.
For the truth is, I am a being of light. And all of these other aspects are gifts that have been given to me.
Yeah.
But my absolute essence is source. So I'm not my body, I'm not my mind, I'm not my emotions, and I am not the personas that I play. I'm all of them and none of them.
So who are you?
Who am I?
What are you?
Well, some spiritual study says I am source. Even Jesus. I mean, you look at most. There is probably some passage that we are more than what we believe we are. You know, that we are more than what we are. We
are more than what we believe we are. Yet we are almost nothing.
Well, you talked about it before. Are we really this tangible matter? Some people and some science says that we're a hologram.
We are a hologram.
I believe that. Again, that's a whole other conversation.
No, let's have that conversation. So is this just a representation of our belief? Or is this the state that we put ourselves in because this is what we believe we are?
Yeah. And I believe as source, it does that. It sends itself out into this universe, other universes, beyond what we could even begin to imagine, my belief is, to experience itself in creation.
Yeah, because that's been said I know in Hindu culture they've said that, in many cultures they say that, that what we know, God or divinity or source or whatever you want to call it, can't experience. This is God or source experiencing itself, or the universe experiencing itself.
Yeah, if you are perfection, how do you experience perfection? By sending parts of itself out.
Wow.
To experience through you, as me as me, as these lights,
So actually, you touched on a point earlier that I want to go back to. You said the body has an intelligence.
Absolutely.
Isn't the intuition the intelligence of the body, or is that a different thing? Or there's a different way of looking at it?
I think they're connected. They're interconnected. The intelligence of the body, and one of the ways I'd explain it is some of the modalities that I work with have to do with the different organs in the body. Okay. Liver holds anger, large intestines.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's all sorts of things. The heart. There's certain things that happen with people that there's...
Does the heart hold pain?
Yeah, it can.
I felt that.
the heart can feel pain. I mean, oftentimes people, when they're in the process of letting go of something they no longer believe, they don't know how.
Yeah.
One of the first things that usually happens is this compression.
Yeah. Yeah.
Around the heart.
A tightening
around the heart, a heaviness on the chest, and I've seen it hundreds of times. And what I ask them to do is to breathe through it, because the body has an intelligence. It's telling you something.
Okay.
My heart is saying, hello, listen to me. There's something going on here. You're not listening. You're not paying attention.
Yep.
How does the body get your attention?
Yeah.
It grabs you.
Yeah.
Okay, now you have my attention. What's going on?
Yeah. And you have to be cued into that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, when I do the work with people, and I see this happen all the time,
Yeah.
you know, you're in this kind of pain. You want out.
Yeah.
And you're willing to do almost anything to get out.
And it gets to that point for you to even listen.
And it's the beautiful thing is because there's a process to take them through, to bring them through that. And it's usually, the heart usually gets blocked, it gets restricted, or it gets shut down. Oftentimes because the pain, the experiences we have been so painful, we don't want to love, because that's the key. The heart is the big L. It's
Wait.
love.
Sorry, say that again. The experiences?
So, the experiences and the things that we have learned in our life that have become painful.
Right.
Okay? We didn't know how to process them. Usually at an earlier age, we repeat it later on in life. But as a child, we don't know how to process it.
Yep.
All we want to do is we want to be loved.
Right.
We don't know anything else.
Yeah.
Love me.
Yeah.
But when somebody's smacking you around or verbally abusing or something's happening to you, you shut down. You close parts of your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and your large intestines is about withdrawing. It's about protecting yourself. So there's a pattern that happens in people's bodies that I undo with them.
And have you noticed that, you know, a lot of those ailments that people, like medical science can't diagnose, and they're like, well, you have this thing, we don't know where it's coming from, there's no pills to give you for it, and you find that it's tied to some kind of
Absolutely,
disconnect?
100%. Absolutely, 100%. There are some people in this world who are going to experience diseases, different. I believe it's their soul's journey. It's part of their learning.
It's part of their contract. That's what
part of their contract, part of their learning. But I believe that most of us, and I remember the moment I realized that at a very deep, intuitive, visceral level. Mm-hmm. And I believe that the majority of us, we experience dis-ease. There's no coincidence that we use the word dis-ease, not disease, but dis-ease. See, we're always getting this information, how we process it. And what I try and do with a client is to find out where is that dis-ease. Mm-hmm. And these organs, each of the organs holds particular patterns. And like I said, the liver is anger, you know, but I won't go into that. So the body has this beautiful intelligence. You know, I do sound healing, as you know. Yeah. And there are energy centers in the body. It's believed that we have 7. There's more than that, but 7 major centers in our body. Right. They're called chakras. One on the top of the head, forehead, throat, heart, and 3 below. Okay, no coincidence. There are 3 below the heart and 3 above the heart. Heart being the key.
Okay. Yeah.
In this human experience.
Yeah.
And there are 2 of them that I see most often now, all the time. It's the heart and the throat.
Yeah, that's very common. Yeah.
Very, very common.
Yeah. That have issues, or people are kind of tied up within?
Yeah, they have issues with.
Yeah. Why is that?
And oftentimes, almost without exception, the throat is about speaking.
Right.
Speaking your truth.
Yep.
Being able to speak up.
Yep.
You know, because again, we learned that at a very early age. I learned at a very early age. I spoke up. I was going to be smacked.
Right.
And I didn't like that. So
Yeah.
until eventually I became the rebel and I said, up yours, I don't care.
I'm just going to keep going forever, right?
Yeah. So it's about speaking your truth. Like when I'm doing sound healing, oftentimes people perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Until they lay down and I start playing these gongs and different instruments, and all of a sudden there's something's going on with the throat. Yeah. I know it's happening. They don't know it's happening usually. Yeah. And I've had many times people come out, a young woman in particular who came out, who's in tears and crying, going, "My God, I'm frightened." Okay, what's the matter? Yeah. I have something stuck in my throat and I don't know what it is. You got to help me. I said, "It's okay. Sit down." Yeah. I asked a couple of questions. what in the world are you not saying you need to say?
Exactly.
You know what it is. Oh, no, I didn't know what it is. I said, yes, you do.
Yeah.
She goes, I know. And I said, say it out loud.
Yeah.
She's like, I can't. I said, I can't help you.
Yeah, that's the problem. You can't say it.
No, so she did. She began.
You think you can't say it.
Yeah, she began to speak it. And all of a sudden, the tears and the fear turned to this laughter, and she was smiling. She's like, wow, I didn't think it could be that easy.
Yeah.
You know, she needed to express it not only outwardly, but in front of another human being. Makes a huge difference. And the other is the heart. Heart's all about love.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned before, I won't go into that, but the heart is all about love.
Yeah.
And it's like, who are you not expressing it to? You know, okay. And then that's the first question I'll ask people when they have challenges with their heart. Yeah. Second question I'll ask is, and they say, oftentimes people say, I do pretty well. I express my love and I show it and I hug people. It's like, cool. My next question is, how are you not loving yourself?
That's huge.
Nobody on planet Earth can say I love myself 365 days a year, 24 hours.
I love me, but sometimes I get mad at me.
Yeah, so...
Yeah. I don't know, amazing. So the physical kind of things, the physical intelligence.
Yeah, the body tells us.
Intelligence.
If we listen.
Is slightly different from intuition?
Oh, but no. See, that's perfect what you just shared.
Yeah.
Because I tapped my ears to listen. It is not listening from here.
Yeah.
It's listening from here and here.
So it is intuition.
Yes. It's connected to the heart, connected to source. Because source is always trying, like you said, we're always going to get the same thing over and over and over again until we get it.
Yeah.
Because source says, I love you so much, I'm going to keep giving it to you until you see it. And then when you see it, you're going to go, oh my God. And there came a point in my life, I felt so much love.
Yeah.
Because of all of the shit I had to go through.
Right.
And if you would have told me that earlier, I would have said...
and that's where all that shit that seems so terrible is love. Yeah. That makes perfect sense.
Can't see it when you're in it, usually. It's too painful.
Of course. So then the art of tuning into your intuition also includes tuning into the body and what the body is trying to tell you and messages it's trying to send you. So because I also notice, there's a lot of people who have literal injuries.
Yeah.
I mean, like, they'll knee will go out or something like that. There's so many of these things, and now I'm starting to cue into like, wow, you were kind of rushing through life too much, and now your leg gets taken out and you get put into a seat.
Exactly.
It's almost like clockwork.
It's exactly. Things happen to people's faces and they get these humongous rashes and things that keep reoccurring. They can't figure it out. Yeah. What are you afraid to face?
And so what does somebody do in that situation?
You ask them the question, what are you afraid to face in life?
And people have, like, that's something that you're
almost every time when I do sound healings, most often there's somebody that comes out with something. It's my shoulder, it's my leg, it's my face, it's something. And again, the body has that intelligence. I've been doing this long enough. Like you said, if something happens to the legs or the knees, it means movement, forward movement. It's asking you to stop.
Yeah.
Stop what you're doing. Is there something you're trying to force that you need to just stop for a moment and just take a look at it? Mm-hmm. Same thing, with arms and so forth and hands. Oftentimes over the left or the right side of the body. Yeah. Left side is the feminine, the right side is the masculine. Oftentimes somebody hurts or harms the left side of the body. First question I'll ask is, how are you not nurturing yourself? What are you trying to force in your life from a very I gotta get this done kind of attitude, where you really feel that it's more of an abrasion as opposed to it's a free form that this is where I'm flowing. Yeah, it feels good. Yeah, I need to be in the masculine. But oftentimes our body gets injured and says, whoa, wait a minute. But let me share one last thing is there are also times too we just stub our toe, we do something stupid because it was just stupid.
Yeah, it just happens.
That we don't have to.
You can't take everything and be like, well, what is the bigger meaning of this? And
no, because otherwise you drive yourself nuts.
Yeah. It's like, oh well, I broke my nail, and what does that have to do with it?
Yeah, I broke my $50 polish. I better get it. Okay.
My gel came off.
And I don't mean disrespect to the feminine aspect or to the women.
It's funny, ladies. Whenever you get the gel, I hate it. I always have to get it. it redone and stuff.
But it happens to all of us, both genders. Yeah.
And so to that point, you know, somebody who has had, especially recurring things and physical things, and they've tried everything and they've gone everywhere, you know, is this something that is something they should try, something they should at least look towards to see, hey, is this coming from a place of some kind of being out of touch with intuition or not following my kind of purpose? Or
absolutely. There are things you can do, like for instance the heart. Well, share one. Well, now I'll take a step back. I think it's Louise Hayes. There are several books out there that talk about this. My teacher taught me this, Grandfather Morning Owl, probably 15, 20 years ago. You know, this is where a lot of my program came from, was him. And part of it was the intuition of the body. Why is it off? What's going on? And we do a neuroemotional release down the spine from all of these organs, from residual energy that's held after you do the major catharsis and the cathartic work with them. So you just kind of fine-tune. What else was I going to share? We're
talking about like if somebody's having an ailment. And you know, what are some things that they could at least look towards, or maybe.
I'll just give you a couple of examples. We already talked about it. The throat. If you're having problems with your throat, getting a lot of sore throats. You know, when you begin something in a situation happens that you can't speak and you can feel something's going down.
I have one for you.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm experiencing this. Like, I've started to speak a lot now for crypto, and I'm giving speeches and actually really explaining things again and again. And then it's starting to get to a point where like I'm almost starting to get like tiredness of the throat. It isn't even that I'm speaking that much. It's just I can see there's something pulling me away. Like, hey, slow down.
Telling you to slow down and rest. Happens a lot. What happens is, and what I have seen in my own life and in a lot of clients that I've worked with, is generally when we get something. Like that deep intuitive experience, or we get this deep revelatory experience, we just want to run like a child and scream it to the world. Okay? What I've learned is that you begin to find moderation. You don't just spew it and carpet bomb everybody. You then come into yourself from a place of maturity. Like you said, throat starts hurting, we have to slow down. We come to a place where we realize, oh, wait a minute. Do I need to scream this at the top of the mountain every day to everyone that walks by me? That's a lot of wasted energy, because a lot of the people that you may be sharing to, you obviously have an audience that people want to listen to you. But oftentimes when people learn something, it doesn't matter what it is, we just want to share it. Because we're enthusiastic, we're excited. We like, wow, we just learned this. You know, they don't take into consideration. I didn't take into consideration. There are people around me. They probably learned this years ago, or maybe somebody didn't, and they're like, oh, I'm all ears. So really about listening to that level of maturity, and it's not uncommon that we just kind of scream and want to share it to the world.
I'd started, booking clients back to back, and I was just constantly crypto 6-7 hours a day, and it's just like really passionate, and now I'm starting to see it that like, just because you love it, even though it's good, people do want to listen to it. Doesn't mean that you just overdo yourself. And now it's pulling me back.
Take a guess where that comes from initially. Part of the ego. Oh, I'm being...
Me? I don't have an ego. What ego? What are you talking
that's
about?
Part of it. It wants to be heard in the world. Because most of us, one of the biggest issues for most of us is we don't feel worthy. And oftentimes when we use our voice and we can really feel it and hear it,
and people resonate to it.
We just want to shout out to the world.
That makes sense.
But eventually you realize, as you're realizing, it's like, wait a minute. And this is what I teach people in the very beginning when they're doing these kinds of things and they're learning something. One of the first things I tell them, moderation, take care of yourself. Because you will, like most of us, almost without exception, we've all crashed and burned, gotten sick, got put in bed because we were just working too much, whatever. And it's really about self-care.
And that's what I'm already tuning into from my intuition. My intuition was like, hey, look, alert. Feel what's going on.
Slow down.
You better slow down, otherwise I will slow you down, boy. Okay, calm down with your crypto stuff. Like, I was doing 2 meetings. Even before this podcast, I would do 2 meetings, speaking for 2 hours, and then even before that, have somebody, and then come here, speak for 2 hours about crypto. And it's like, you just spent 6 hours just not shutting up about crypto.
That's a lot.
That's a bit much. So now I'm like, back.
It was part of your journey.
Yeah, and it's when you love it so much, and you're like, I know my throat hurts, but let me just tell you this one last thing.
Yeah.
You know?
What'd you say?
Crypto, just Bitcoin, bro.
Yeah.
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 No, tuning into that has been one of the biggest.
Yeah.
It's like a superpower. Intuition is like a superpower.
Absolutely. It's connection to source.
Yeah, because when you become so effortless.
That's the key. You know, there's a saying, I can't remember what it is, way or something of that nature, that says non-forcing. In other words, entering into it more as a flow when it presents itself.
Yeah.
Like for you in crypto. Okay, there's a beautiful flow. You know when it's happening, and then rest.
Yeah. Like don't try to pack it all in
the
there.
people
like,
who are meant to come to you will come to you.
They do. That's the thing. That's the beautiful part. And
Yep.
the more I'm in the flow, the more things just work out the way that they're meant to work out.
And how do you feel overall when you're in that kind of a...
So enlivened and like so full of energy, actually.
Not so exhausted.
Not drained, not exhausted,
Yeah.
But it's also that, you know, you have to then surrender to the unknown at that point. Because you're not trying to make things happen.
Well, it's better to surrender to the unknown as opposed to being put in bed sick with, sore throat. Or,
yeah, I feel like it's a little bit better. No, I've been guilty of that, where I'll find something that I'm passionate about and just push it so much, and then you can feel it. All the alarms are going off. Like, hey, come on.
Beautiful, be human.
Yeah, exactly. Right, relax. Be. What do we say? Be, don't do.
Yeah.
Be a human being.
If you're going to do it from a place of being, more in that sense of flow, as opposed to forcing it.
Yeah, pushing it.
And you know when you're forcing it.
Yeah, of course.
The body knows when you're forcing it.
But that's what's been taught to us as like as success. Like spend 16 hours a day just grinding and pushing and doing all the stuff, and it's like
what I learned. Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, of course, and that's where the intuition comes in. If you just listen
that
to
an experience.
Yeah, exactly, and it'll guide you in such a beautiful way that you're like water just flowing downhill, and then you end up getting to the same spot.
Yeah.
But you enjoyed the whole journey. Didn't end up in bed. And just felt fantastic the whole time.
Keeping in mind that don't beat yourself up on the way in the process.
Yeah, water doesn't beat itself up.
I didn't do it right, or I didn't do it well enough, or I didn't, you go down that rabbit hole, and, just as much as you can, ask yourself the mantra, what in this moment can I do that's most loving?
What can I do in this moment that's most loving?
Yeah, and if you stop and listen, oftentimes your intuition says something. Go rest, go lie down, go enjoy a bath, go for a swim, go for a hike. When you start listening to those internal messages, then you become in tune with them. And it's easier to listen. For me, I'll just share very quickly. I had all of these things that were so pronounced. That happened to me, whether I'm standing next to a counter and I want to throw up. It was so big, I couldn't miss it. You had to hit me with a 2x4. Where now it's very, very subtle. And sometimes, even for me, it's frustrating. Because it's like, okay, am I missing something here? It's really quiet. Do I take a nap? I don't know what. So, again, it's just another level of it, I think.
And it's I forgot what the quote is, but they said something like, intuition whispers. It's that little voice that just goes, hey.
Yeah, but a little nudge. You can just feel like
and it's so easy to it's so easy to take the noise and cover it all up.
Sure.
But just listening to that little voice will go farther than all the noise you can create in your head and all the things that you can try to make happen, basically.
That's why doing a mindfulness or just a few minutes of quiet during the day. Whether it's quiet.
What is quiet? How do you spell that?
Quiet.
Weird.
Quiet.
Never heard of that.
Go sit in that favorite chair, sit in lotus, or sit in whatever it is out in your yard. There's a particular place. Just sit for a few minutes. Follow your breath. And even if you don't follow your breath, just observe the beauty. Whether there's a butterfly or a bird chirping, flowers or whatever. The grass is beautiful. Just as much as you can come out of your head. But for me, I work with people and start them on their breath. Because it's easy. You don't have to do anything other than, I notice I'm now traveling out here.
Yeah, and it's a low barrier of entry, even for somebody who's resistant, who thinks like, that stuff.
Absolutely.
It's like, just breathe. Just breathe and see what comes up.
And that's key through any emotional response. Even in the large emotional responses, breath work. breathing. Breathe through it. Because what we do when we're in uncomfortable positions is we restrict our breath and we tighten up. It's fight or flight. Okay, it's a beautiful thing. It's a way to protect us if we're in danger. But if we're not in danger,
then the thing becomes the danger.
Yeah, exactly. So
breath work, that's a great place to start.
Breath work is one.
Sound healing, I know for sure. Like
sound healing,
we've all been there, especially the kind of sound healing you do at the pyramids. That's some visceral stuff.
Yeah, it's really can take people scientifically. For those people who really need to be in their head, it takes you from beta, which is that awakened state, brainwave activity, to theta or theta, which is that very, very quiet brain activity. It's basically where gurus meditate too. Can take you from beta to theta this fast. Where normally you have to, be mindful, you have to do meditation to actually get to that point to quieting the mind. But sound healing, particularly with gongs and instruments, can take you very, very quickly.
Just right to it. Anything else? Step 1, breath work. So step 1, just sit there.
Mindfulness. Or even if you jog or you hike. If you like to go out in nature and hike, focus on your feet. Focus on your path. Take your mind off of all this other stuff, but just become like when I used to hike all the time in Sedona, Arizona, where I lived for many years. I used to do that. It was my meditation. I would watch my feet, or I would just watch stones in front of me. Nothing going on in my head.
It's like a walking meditation.
Absolutely.
Step by step. I remember like barefoot hiking. I would be placing each step with such care. And it was and you don't even realize what's going on, but at the same time, so many revolutions would come to you. So many things would just become clear, and by the end of it, you feel like you've done a bunch of thinking without even thinking.
Sure.
That's speaking of effortless.
Another one is what they call earthing. It's another form of grounding. Take your shoes off, take your socks off. Go walk around in your yard, feel the grass on your feet. Okay? Go for a hike. I mean, a lot of people, if you wear your shoes a lot, you can't step on a bunch of rocks. I mean, it kind of hurts.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm not asking you to go out and create a lot of pain. It's just ground, feel your feet. Go sit. Put your hands on the grass. I've worked with a number of people in some countries that are very focused on, Singapore being one. I've worked with a number of people that for them to sit in a park or to be in grass, it's like foreign to them.
It's insane,
I mean, I've had people, I put them through my workshop, and I said, now let's go out and sit in the grass. And like, sit out in the grass? What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? You've never stuck your fingers and your hands in the dirt and the mud and the grass and kind of laid down on it? No.
Oh, that's weird.
It's like, come
odd.
on. Okay, this is exactly what we need to do.
I see the problem. It's a simple process.
You live in a concrete jungle.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, look at New York. Well, I shouldn't say New York City because they have a huge park. But that can still happen there as well. But
yeah, of course. And then just shoes. Like just wearing shoes, being out of touch. It's not just being out of touch with your intuition. It's being out of touch with the earth, being out of touch with nature itself, being out of touch with your own nature, your own body's intelligence.
Knowing that we are all connected.
Being out of touch with everything.
Yeah.
So, get in touch with your intuition. Thank you so much. That was deeply
Thanks,
fulfilling. We'll see you guys next time. Stay intuitive out there.
Thanks very much.
Bye for now.
Bye.